No, if I was cheap, I wouldn't pay for anything, and I would go to Val and Brian, my adopted soccer family that hangs with me, or I hang with them.
Yeah.
And I would be like, hey, when the team photo comes in, let me borrow it for a day. I'm going to Walmart to get it scanned and copied for $1.
It's the Scott and Alley Not For Air podcast. The rules are gone. The shirt is untucked. Here's Scott and Alley.
If you are watching this, you will see that we are rather crispy. Oh my gosh, I even have outlines where my glasses were.
Yeah, you do. You look like a raccoon.
How did we not see this in real life? Suddenly we hit record on our equipment for the podcast, Not For Air podcast. Thank you, the Scott and Alley Not For Air podcast. Now I'm seeing
share, and subscribe.
How glazy my head is because I've been in the sun.
Well, it's the nose. The nose is what I think looks pretty red.
And then I've got the white under where the sunglasses were. And you had noticed my chest because I know you're always staring at it there. No,
I was saying that my chest is red from Saturday because we were in the sun so much on Saturday.
Mine is too. You can sort of see where the difference is.
Nice little V-neck.
Wow.
Yeah.
We got crispy.
I didn't realize it until, I don't look at you a ton during the show, so I didn't even notice, but your nose is a little pink.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time in the sun, and it has definitely shown, including me sitting for an hour and 45 minutes for my 5-year-old soccer game, which was great. She made 3 goals. I'm so proud of her.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I do have to...
Maybe she's the future soccer star. Maybe she's the Hope Solo.
I didn't tell you this. She ended up telling her assistant coach. So her coach... This is the age group it is. They're such little kids, they don't even get referees. They get the coaches on the field to
guide
referee
them. Yeah.
And her assistant coach stands on the sideline and kind of, corrals the kids that are not playing at that moment and switches them in and out and stuff like that. And so Lydia goes to the assistant coach. This is after she scored her second of 3 goals. She goes, yeah, I didn't even want to come. I just wanted to be on my tablet today. And
the honesty of...
Yes. The coach is like...
what did I say? In the mouth of babes or something?
Oh, something, right? And she's like, you're doing really good. And she turns around and runs out and all three of her goals were breakaway goals. She got the ball and took off when everybody else was like, here we come.
I think this is a good place to say, if we let our kids do what they wanted, they would always be on their tablets. Yes. But just, making them do something else, how they can have an adventure and live life a little bit more.
I'm going to come back to the tablet thing for a minute because there was something for the longest time. We constantly hear too much screen time, not good for kids, right?
You're right.
Constantly hear it. I think the experts have something wrong in this, believe it or not. Yes, I'm challenging the experts. That's right. Write it down. Go figure. No, there's an observation I've had about this.
What?
That, all right, I'll tell you this now, and then I'll go to the question I had. Okay, so in younger years, I can totally understand where too much screen time, they get sucked in and absorbed in, and then also
become addicted.
It will become addicted, but they can also go down a path of maybe not what you want them to watch. Like it may not be age appropriate, may not be so bad for, say, a 10, 11-year-old, but at 5, you're like, can't you watch something with princesses, or a talking fish, But so I understand at a younger age. Don't get me wrong with that, and you try to limit it as much as you can. But I've noticed something. So with my son Gavin, who's 10, he uses it totally differently, and I think the experts need to look at this. I don't think kids are quite the same as they used to be when it came to screen time. He has a network of no less than 4 friends, and he will group call. At least there'll be 3 of them on at a time. Now, sure, they're playing Roblox, they're playing a game. Let me tell you something else that's really interesting. That game is far more strategic, and kind of, you got to figure out the ways to go, or, hey, you come follow me. It's really weird. I think the people that are doing these tests are so old school, going, go outside and play. And you should. And believe it or not, Gavin gets to a point where he's like, okay, I'm going out to jump on the trampoline. And I'm like, good, go for it. Get all the energy out of it. So But
do you think that's because you guys had I don't want to say limits, but maybe you had limits. I'm not really sure how you guys did it when he was younger. But where you would say, okay, Gavin, you have to get off the iPad so he knows the balance?
Yeah, I mean, that may have been part of it, but no, I think it's the way that age group communicates now. Now, I'm going to tell you, I still try to keep it old school as much as possible. He had a buddy come over, spend the night this weekend. They had the face-to-face time, as much as possible. Well, you remember, a few weeks back, we took Gavin, 2 of his friends from school, and Lydia up to the New York State Fair by design. Be together, be in front of each other, and, interact that way. But it is very different. If you have a kid alone in a room that's just on a screen, I could see the experts being right about too much screen time is a bad thing. These guys, and you will also see a hierarchy form. One day, one kid is guiding the whole group.
Yeah.
Another day, another kid seems to be the leader. And I also, can I tell you something else too?
What?
I love the fact that of the 4, there's 4 of them that are in this kind of core in Gavin's group that do this. One of them is a girl, also the sweetest little thing. And I love that because now you're intermixing everybody. Allie, I'm telling you, this is the way kids are communicating, and it's so different than what you'd expect, but I don't think it's really understood, and I'm watching it unfold, and of course, you still have to step in and go, okay, we gotta take a break there. I will also tell you, the young lady that goes on this group and plays with the boys, and they talk quite a bit, I always hear her parents in the background. Sometimes I'll even say hi to them. I'll be like, oh, hi, guys, and so I don't know that the experts have it exactly right. I think they need to examine when they get to a certain age because it is teaching, think about this, strategizing, they're communicating. There's a leadership kind of trade-off going here. I do recommend you get them together face to face.
I can see these kids being like the next CEOs.
Yes.
And what's great is too, because I think the world that we're going towards is a world where we are going to be communicating remotely more often. I know that there's lots of remote jobs, hybrid jobs. That's not necessarily how I always want it to be, but that you can, like, let's say, for instance, you work for Corning. You're in Corning, New York, but you need to converse with somebody over in Taiwan. Well, then this is perfect that they're already used to it and can establish a relationship that way. I'm not saying it's a full circle relationship, but I think it's enough to get the jobs done. And the whole like, oh, here, follow my team. I like this. I'm a big fan of like team building activities and icebreakers and things like that, that I like that they're saying, hey, come with me. I want to still make you feel a part, even though it's virtual. I still want you to feel like you are on my team and that we are connecting, and that it's not like bashing or bullying or anything like that.
Oh my gosh, not at all. In fact, they're problem solving when they're doing this.
Right.
I'm watching that unfold. They're discovering things because you will undoubtedly hear, oh my God, you got to go this way, this or that. And so, I mean, you will hear the problem solving happen. And honestly, I would rather... and you got to keep something else in mind too. And this isn't an excuse. This is a reality. It is impossible in at least many areas USA, let's say, to walk out your door and have 5-6 kids all living around you that you could play with. It was my neighborhood when I was a real young kid. We had that still. I mean, growing up in the one part of Buffalo, I lived in 2 parts of Buffalo growing up. One part, very much when I was a young kid, I had Kevin down the street. I had Mike and his brother. I had Ashley. I had Jane. And there was a Jane. Yeah. We grew up, and I'm going to tell you, that was in the mid 70s, late 70s. That was still alive. By the time I moved to Williamsville, I had a couple girls that lived down the street. Actually, it was Heather and her sister Pam, and I think her brother Kevin. The Browns lived down the street. But that was about as close as I had, as far as kids that I could really hang around with. Other than that, it would have been on my mom to take me somewhere. We didn't have the technology to do what we're doing right now. This is a different universe with this. I'm telling you, we need to do a different kind of study with these kids than just too much screen time is not a good thing. They are communicating. They're learning how to get along. They're learning how one kid leads this time, the other kid leads this time.
And how do they decide?
I don't know. How do you decide who makes plans for a girls' night out with you and your girlfriends? It sort of just organically happens.
Yes, but it is funny because there are natural leaders in a group. Now, I think in my group of girls growing up, I think I tended to be a natural leader in that. And it just always happened. Now I think about it, I'm like, oh, I should have, when I was younger, maybe Marianne wasn't so much of a leader, which is interesting because I think of this, my one girl from Marianne was not that, she wasn't that when we were younger. She's very quiet. She's very tiny. So I think people look at her as always, her nickname was Baby. And so I think people always
Never
just
put her in the corner, did you?
But they always pegged her as that. So she didn't have a loud voice. Now she's in management. And I think that it probably was an interesting path to finding her voice. I wish I would have stepped back and not been so leader-like when I was younger, so she could have had that opportunity.
Well, you got to remember
but
something.
I didn't know that at the time, you know?
None of us do. But the other thing is we also, and one of probably the million reasons we get along the way we do, we are equally loud people. And unfortunately, the louder you are, the more you're perceived as the leader. You know, other people have great ideas too. We just happen to say ours the loudest, and then a lot of people just give up and go, fine, we'll go with them.
Well, that, and I think that people don't want to make decisions, where I was always like, yes, we're going here, or we're going to spend the night here. And I made a decision, and I was willing to make a decision.
You know, the other thing is, you had asked which one's the leader. So even though it does change from time to time, and one of them will say, because sometimes they'll just talk, and that's the other thing. If they're not playing a game, sometimes they'll just talk, and they might watch. You know how, okay, here's a funny one. So at this age group, none of them are really in TikTok. I mean, the most you're getting are the YouTube shorts.
Yep.
And you can find enough cat farting videos on there to entertain a 10-year-old or a group of them for an hour, you know, or longer. I mean, you know.
My significant other, he is also a YouTube short person.
Yeah.
I'm a Reels person. He's a YouTube Shorts person.
Well,
some people are TikTok people. Yeah.
And you know, I think at certain ages you become something different. You go to the Reels. You know, the TikTok thing, it may not be the hottest thing for a 10-year-old, you know, right away.
Right.
And one of his, you know, little friends actually does her own YouTube videos, which is really cute.
Oh.
So that being said, sometimes you'll hear in there the weird, silly sounds coming out, and then they'll go, oh, I'm going to go over and play this game. Do you want to come with me? Okay. So what they're doing is they're doing an old-fashioned play date, but they're
virtually.
doing it virtually. And then, like I said, balance it out, get them together. The other thing that, well, God, there was another thing I was going to mention about this. Oh, you were talking about the leadership part. So this is interesting too. I have to work with Gavin on his hang-up skills, because sometimes I'll walk in and it's worse than my mother, which my mother was notorious for. Just when the call was over, in her head, she'd hang up the call. You're like,
my grandmother did the same thing, and I'm like, you have to say goodbye.
thank you. You're like, Mom, are you still? No,
You know,
she's
I
gone.
usually will give a before we get off the phone, anything else?
Yeah, right.
Or hey,
Pre-warn 'em.
Right. Hey, I gotta jump. Or let's talk later. I always we're weaning off the call.
Yes. Well, my mother was also notorious for the 4 attempts to get off a call. I remember calls between her and my aunt that they were ready to hang up. And then another subject came up, and it would continue going.
Yes.
And then you were, all right, well, listen, I should really get back to this. Oh, did you hear about Beth's surgery? Boom, we're into Beth's surgery. Now it has been 4 times. No wonder they never said goodbye, because at the point that they've had enough, they couldn't take anymore, because if they said one more word, it would have started another string of conversation. But it is weird, because I'll like walk in and I'll be like, hey, Gavin, we got to get ready for soccer. And then all of a sudden, he's already pushing the button goodbye, and he's
without saying goodbye.
Well, he's like, soccer, go. You know, and I'm like,
what?
No, Gavin, say goodbye to your friends. Let them know that you're leaving, so they, you know, because I don't want it to be like a rude, you know.
Wait, he says soccer go?
he will say, like, I gotta go by. Like it's the fastest hang up I've ever seen. And I'm like, no, you gotta let your friends know.
Right, you gotta ease into the goodbye.
Right, because, eventually.
He basically Irish goodbyes virtually.
Oh my God, he does. That's the best way to put it. It's an Irish goodbye virtually. And it's funny though, because I'm like, I want him to get to the point where when he gets a little bit older and more of those social cues become noticeable from other people, that he actually is polite about it. Like, hey, Riley, I gotta go, or whatever the case may be, as opposed to soccer time, gotta go, click, gone. You're like, dude, say goodbye to your friends.
This is something I forget that we have to teach. And off the air, Scott and I were talking with our GM about social cues being in just certain public situations that Scott and I are in, that some people don't have the social cues that you thought that your parents would teach you or that you knew, but they don't, and that's fine. So I forget that you have to teach your kid all the social cues and the niceties and the pleasantries and all of those things that you want your child to have, of course.
That's exactly what it is. Either way, I beg somebody to do a study on the way that it is today. I don't think this is just a post-pandemic situation either. I think this is a mix of a couple things. We don't live the way we used to,
right,
where you have a street of 12 kids. Some of you do. I get it. There's a couple of you out there.
Yeah.
A lot of us are more spread out, or,
I don't think we have, I think on my street, and I live on a pretty long street, I think there is one house with kids. That's it.
Let me ask you a question. When is the last time you rode down a street where the kids had to move a hockey net or something out of a street because they were playing in the street? I remember years ago, I remember almost every other street you go down,
yes,
you would have kids playing pickup sports right there. You never, hardly ever see it anymore.
No, my friend Christy, her neighborhood is like that, but my neighborhood is not like that. And I walk my dog for a good probably 1 to 2 miles every day. So I'm weaving in and out of streets. Yeah. I'm all over the place. Never see it. When I do see, now we did have a group of young boys ride their bike in the area recently. And it kind of took me by surprise because I'm like, where do they live?
Yeah.
I don't think they live on our street, but it does happen. It's usually biking. They're not doing hockey. They're not doing basketball. I don't know where they're biking to, but they're always biking.
They're somewhere.
So that's a group of boys. And one other thing that you had said was about Gavin having Riley. Riley's the girl, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh God, she's a sweet thing.
So in my group growing up, never it was not co-ed at all. That was like not a thing. And probably not for you either, right?
Okay, real young. Remember when I told you the first area that I lived in Buffalo growing up, I did have, a Kevin. I had a Mike down the street. We had Ashley. We had Jane. So there were girls that were there.
But didn't the girls split with the girls and the boys split with the boys?
In the early days, not as much. And then I'm sure I moved, at that point. Now, later, when I moved out, I moved to an area called Williamsville. And that area, again, I had the Browns down the street. We only had each other, but that only lasted a very brief period of time where we would play remote, exclusively together.
Yeah.
Because then I was getting to the school years where I wanted to be with those friends.
Yeah.
And, no offense to, Heather and her sister Pam and her brother Kevin, but I was more into my group that I was forming that relationship with. And most of them were guys. Well, no, it stayed co-ed. I mean, I
did not.
I think of like, if I go to the group that I had, there was multiple groups I hung around with, but I'll take the Rob, Mark, Sean, John group and Jeremy.
Okay.
And then ancillary to that, we had a Fran. We had...
I love the name Fran.
God, who else did we have? We had other... I'm trying to remember some of the other girls. So,
but you guys, we didn't do that until high school.
Oh, that was much closer to high school that group happened.
Okay.
The Rob, Sean, Jeremy, Mark, all them. That was all in high school. And then Fran was in that. And God, there's more, and I can't.
That's okay. We don't need to laundry list their names. But I just think it's great that he's got like a little girlfriend. Not girlfriend, but a girl who's a friend.
Oh, they're all in the same thing,
Yeah, exactly.
And I deliberately made sure. So when we went to the state fair, because I know that talks to 2 of the 3 people besides himself. He's got the group of 4 that are regulars. 2 of the 3 regularly. And I wanted to make sure she came along because I also think it's a great thing too for both the boys that were there, and they're all the same age, but both the boys that were there, I wanted to see how they interacted with her at something large scale like that. And they did very well. They all stayed together as a group. They
protected each other.
They locked together. And I thought that was great. So
that is awesome. You're doing something right. You're teaching them. I think, and that's the other thing is like to stay. This is a rule I still have with my girlfriends now. Even if we are at a bachelorette party or like if we were at Florida over the weekend and we're having a great time, we do not leave each other.
Yeah, there you go.
No girl is left behind. But that's with any friends. Like we're going, me and
you're like a Marine, no man left behind.
Yeah, me and like 10 friends are going to Kentucky in a couple weeks, and that's another rule is because we know. First of all, we're in a totally different city, and state, and secondly, the event that we're going for, there is a huge street festival, and you can get lost because there's like scavenger hunts going on. They have kind of like a carnival thing. And so we always make sure that if these 2 want to go to the carnival thing, you guys go over there, but we're always touching base and no one goes solo ever.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
think that's something that you have to teach your kids really young, that you do not leave a girlfriend.
No.
Or a guy friend, you know.
You stick your squad together there.
Exactly.
So hopefully they'll do something with that. Now I got to move on to something. I have to ask a question. I'm at a weird moral dilemma.
Okay.
So I don't want to seem like I'm disinterested in something my kids are doing. But I have to know, where does the limitation come in? And I need some guidance on this. So Gavin and Lydia both play spring and fall soccer. Now, the seasons aren't that long. You know, I mean, they're going to wrap up this round of soccer by October 27th. They started the last week of August. It's almost 2 months. So no big deal. They like doing it, gets them out, running around. Everything's great about it. They're both with almost the exact same team they started with. This is like their core teams, right? Like, so there's always going to be a few kids that are going to be different, from spring to fall in the teams. But the core is there. The coaches are there. 90% of the team they played with in spring, they're playing with in fall. Okay, you get the idea. And we'll call it a season. Every season, they get a picture day.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm stuck because am I an asshole if I don't buy pictures every single season? Meaning spring and fall.
No, but I will say you definitely have to hit almost every year. Just recently, Zach was a baseball kid, not a soccer kid. And I was a nothing sports kid. And so we were looking. It's like a stack. You know how it would have like the fake cardboard frame?
Yeah.
And in the top left is the single picture of Zach, and below is the group picture.
Oh, yeah.
So there's like a stack of them that we got from his parents whenever we moved into our house. And so you see when he was 7 and then 8 and then 9 and 10. And it's such a great memory down memory lane. And he does have very fond memories of, oh, this is this guy, this is this girl, blah, 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 blah. It was really fun to just have him go down memory lane. The thing is, I think it is fun for you to a certain degree. It actually is for your kids because they're going to remember the kids they played with and the memories that they had. So I think that you have to you might take a year or 2 off, but then I think your kid's going to go, wait, what happened to when I was 10?
Okay, so I have an idea.
Okay.
But then again, I come back to the fact of maybe this won't work either.
And these pictures aren't cheap, I'm sure.
Well, no, in fact, I will be spending $25 on each kid, and that's the cheapest package, but that includes one of the big pictures and a couple of the small pictures.
No group shot?
Because I got it. What?
No group shot?
Oh, yeah, there'll be a team photo that'll come in there. But Allie, I have a cell phone. I can take 100,000 pictures of my kids.
I know, but I'm old school, and it was awesome just to touch the pictures. And I mean, do they still come with the cardboard frame?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's exactly what it comes in.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to do it. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, there's really nothing, honestly, once your kid gets older and gets to like death age, right? What are you going to do with your CVSA team from
theirs
2024? No, I
I'll
know,
be
but
long gone. They can throw out that tub themselves.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, okay, you've got a random is it CVSA?
Yeah.
It's a random CVSA team from 2024. It's like, what are you going to do with it? Eventually, it's going to get thrown away once Gavin and Lydia get to them dying.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, we're talking 100-year cycle here, though.
It's kind of cool when you go to a vintage store and they'll have the old black and white picture of it'll be an old baseball team. Or like, think of, Babe Ruth, when there's like a full team photo of Babe Ruth. That is really cool. In, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 years, is that going to be like, oh, look at this vintage picture of the CVSA team of 2024?
2 points. I know what they can do with them.
What?
Build another Applebee's and hang it on the wall.
Oh my God, yes.
That's one. Number two is, and then I'm going to come back to questioning about what I'm doing here. So, one of 6059's little extra side hustle she does to make a little extra money, she cleans the Woodhull Town Hall,
yes,
which has turned into, I mean, this is where her clinic is. So she actually is like, well, on my day off, I'll go earn a little extra cash and clean some bathrooms and vacuum some floors. And
that's a good side hustle.
Yeah, it's not a huge town hall. It's a nice building, don't get me wrong, but we're not talking about, going to Albany and cleaning their town hall. It's a rural town hall. It's small.
One of my side hustles I'm doing on Saturday, I'm bartending a wedding. It's tiring.
Well, sure.
It's a lot of work for one day.
But it gets you some extra cash, and it's something she does.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, and I have helped more than one occasion, and I don't mind doing it because, one, it moves things.
Oh, let's hope you get a tip. Hi-yo.
It moves things along so she doesn't have to do and be there as long.
That's awesome.
So
teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah, and it keeps my bathroom cleaning skills at peak efficiency, may I say. But back to the picture thing. So they have a wall of pictures. Like when you walk in the town hall, when you walk straight in, if you make a right, you go to the medical clinic where she normally works. If you make a left, you could go to the town clerk's office. There's a judge, a courtroom down at the end of the hall for all the racing Amish buggies that get tickets. That's where they go. Very quiet courtroom.
Yes.
So, but there's a wall of these old pictures, and some of them back to like 1928 and stuff like that.
Cool.
Allie, in what year did it become the normal practice to smile in a picture? And everybody goes, smile. These are the most miserable looking fucks I've ever seen in my life. Like you are asking them to give their soul to Satan in a picture. Every one of them, if you're watching this, you'll love it. Every one of them's like this.
I don't think it was.
I hate life.
I don't think it was until like 60s or 70s. Remember, like 70s was like free love, peace, happiness. Yes, I think that came way later.
Nobody smiled in these pictures.
My dad has pictures. My dad or my uncle, basketball, wrestling pictures, and I'll tell you, their stance is they will stand up and their arms are always crossed behind their backs and just like looking straight ahead, like, yes,
yep,
yes.
These people literally,
I'm wrestling.
Anyone older in an old picture, like we're talking, like, I don't know, from when photography was invented till at some point where the smile became, maybe people started looking at pictures going, God, we got to stop looking so miserable. But everybody has a scowl. You would think that they all despise the fact that they're breathing. And
it's the same. So I was in a sorority a long time ago, and in my sorority, or even in the halls of my college, there would be, if it was the College of Equine, that was really big at my school, or it was the College of Psychology, then they have all these pictures in the hallways. Same thing. Now that makes a little bit more sense at college. You're being professional, you're being serious, but even in our sorority pictures, I know you just did a keg stand.
Yeah.
I don't know if they had kegs back in the day, but let's pretend. I know you just...
Hoist the wooden barrel.
Exactly. But y'all are miserable SOBs. Like, why is
It's a downright scowl.
Right. Why is it that in our sorority pictures, It looks like no one likes each other at all.
And the sorority from, 1947, where they all look like they just found out that they failed their last year of college and they'd have to redo it. But yet dressed far better than what you would expect a sorority to look like. Today, you're hoeing it up. Back then, you had like a neck to floor dress and you were looking put together. And
my sorority
there were
picture,
no knees showing.
My sorority picture, I definitely cheesed it up. So we had, and I can't remember if it was like one of those tops that everyone had to wear and that we all just shared, but I remember that it's black and it drapes as if it's a curtain and then pearls. When else would I wear a pearl necklace? Hey now.
Well, actually, after
in
the
college
frat party, after the frat party, you might wear one.
And of course, I'm cocked to the side.
Oh, the look, the side look.
I'm cocked to the side. I've got pearls and a black drape, and it's like
you were pulling Designing Women out when that was back on TV still.
I have not been to my sorority house since I graduated college, maybe like a year or two after. I just haven't been back. And I wonder, do they still wear the pearl necklaces and the black curtain?
You need to go back for two reasons.
I know. It's honestly, it takes so long to drive there.
Right, but for two reasons you need to go back. One, I want to see if they look at you like the old lady of the house now.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like even though you have a cool job and everything, are you the old broad in the house?
Absolutely.
And then two, I think you'd be a powerful inspiration to some of these young girls. And still at this day, probably keep up with them in the booze department a little bit. I'm kidding.
So I do want to go back. Like when I go to Kentucky, that would be a perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
But I'm driving in a car with 4 other people.
You got a party on wheels. Just take them all.
True.
Now, hold on. How does it work? Can you just walk up to the sorority house and walk in, being the fact you can. You can go in and be like, woo, Allie's back.
Yes.
You can.
One of the things that
and they're all going to look at you like, who is
I know.
this?
I want to know if my picture is still on the wall because I was the president at one point.
Looking all hating life, like you're in 1928. Oh.
By the way, going back to like the leadership thing, I never was like, oh, I want to be the leader of a sorority.
Well, think of what you do now. You are constantly moving people, and people are paying attention to you. Well, I know I was around you with a movement. I'm not sure what kind it was.
Right.
But think about it. Think about what you do. The inspiration you might be able to be to that generation, and you may never have thought about it. What if you could? Steer them clear of this industry. But what if you could? They might look at you and be like, "Oh my gosh, one of our sisters, has become a powerful woman." I think you're a powerful woman.
I think I thought about doing this. I also was really, really integral in our radio station back at the time in the day. That a part of me does want to go back and speak in front of that communications department, but I still, like I said, I haven't been back. I never go back to Columbus. Usually if I want to visit one of my friends from Columbus, what I'll do is I'll be in Cleveland, they're in Columbus, and we'll meet halfway.
Which is not a terrible drive.
We meet at like Cracker Barrel.
Oh, not just some random rest stop off I-71.
That too.
Okay.
We actually do our lot lizard lap.
So here, inspiration to those sisters at the Sigma on your back. So at any rate, I got to come back for a minute to the pictures.
Oh yeah, the non-smiling pictures.
No, back to the soccer pictures.
Oh yeah.
So what you were thinking of, I think, was more of in baseball. I don't know that you play more than one season a year and you want the annual. Like if you're with the, and I don't know if this exists, say you're with the Tioga Yankees and you're on the Tioga Yankees from April until August, you're not playing again until the following April. That makes sense to me. Do an annual picture. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, you guys do it twice.
We do it twice, spring and fall. And so you see where I'm at.
Yeah.
So in spring I did the
Wow, they're
pictures.
just sucking the money out of you.
Oh, they do. And wait, school pictures are coming too, and I got to do those every year. So spring,
you do
one picture. Now fall pictures are now, literally now. And but here's my problem. They're different sponsors for the teams every flipping time.
Nobody cares.
So
no kid cares. When Zach and I were looking at his pictures, He wasn't like, oh, and sponsored by
But it's different
Todd's
color.
Taco Truck.
That could be one. It's different colored shirts every single time. So Gavin had a purple shirt last time. Now he's got. My God, what color shirt does he have now? Lydia
red?
has orange now. She was blue last time.
Red?
No,
I don't know.
I don't.
Okay.
Oh, gray.
Okay, but
the most neutral color, and I couldn't remember it.
you said that for the most part, it's the same kids.
Yes.
Then, I mean, sorry, Charlie, you're going to miss a Charlie one of these days.
Okay.
You know, who cares?
What
but
if
for the
I-
most part, it's Gavin's core people. Dad's only paying for pictures once a year.
Once a year. Okay.
Yes.
Then this is my last double shot. I'll cough up the $50 total to get the basic most package for each of them, you know. But starting in spring, I might wait and say, you'll do your team picture. I'll get you up there for the team picture.
But I'm not buying it.
But I ain't buying it.
Yeah.
But I'd still get a team picture. And then
Really? No, you don't
I think
even need to
because
do that.
they're on the team. But when it comes to the fall one, we'll do the fall picture. So you see how it becomes annual?
And plus, you do the fall picture because they just got their haircut from the beginning of school year.
Well, and also they're in the best shape of the entire year because they've been swimming and running and playing and doing everything else. So, I mean, you look, wow, 10 and 5, and I'm worried about what shape they're in.
Well, no, I just
but they
think
got
that
the healthy look about them, you know?
that's exactly it. Like they're just coming off of a refreshed summer.
Exactly. I mean, yeah.
Where spring, it's like, oh my God.
You're
Let's
pale
just
and pasty.
Yeah, let's just survive the end of this year.
It's so true.
You know, and by the way, I wouldn't buy the team picture twice a year, but that's just me.
Yeah, buy it once a year. I think I get it automatically because
Oh,
you
okay.
pay something that I think.
Well, you know, Scott, cheapo free. Yeah, that's fine.
No, if I was cheap, I wouldn't pay for anything, and I would go to Val and Brian, my adopted soccer family that hangs with me, or technically I hang with them.
Yeah.
And I would be like, hey, when the team photo comes in, let me borrow it for a day. I'm going to Walmart to get it scanned and copied for $1. That's cheap, my friends.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. Okay, next week, we have done this together. I was thinking of when coworkers have to travel for a conference.
Yeah.
What is the distance far away that you have to travel when it's like we're going to travel in the same car or we're going to travel separate cars? My significant other is in this right now.
Yeah.
So I want to see how far next week when we pick back up on the
I
podcast.
think I'll give you this much now. I think it goes more than just how far, and we'll go into more of it next week.
Okay. All right. We'll see you then. Bye.
Well, that was fun. Wasn't that fun? That was fun. Do us a favor, will you? Subscribe. Share the Scott and Alley Not for Air podcast. Touch our buttons. We know you want to.